So, victory for Senna, a second successive second place for Damon Hill, with Alain Prost down in third position behind his teammates. Johnny Herbert finishes in fourth place to equal his previous best for Lotus. Fifth, Riccardo Patrese, his first time in the points this season. In sixth position, the first time he's finished in the points, Fabrizio Barbazza, the Italian, in the Minardi, and that's the second Minardi points finish this year. Ahead of his teammate Fittipaldi in seventh place, Zanardi in eighth place, Eric Comas in ninth position, 10th Rubens Barrichello, albeit 6 laps down, 11th Alboreto, 6 laps down. The fastest lap in the race was that of Ayrton Senna on lap 57, 1 minute 18.029. But as Damon Hill comes in, Donington has made its mark.
Yes, it certainly has, and I think the weather was a tremendous part of this race. It really livened it up, and it is there's the Constructors' Championship. McLaren and Williams level on 26 points. Lotus in third place on 7 points. But certainly Senna will be under no delusions about his World Championship lead of some 12 points over Alain Prost, because the Williams cars in qualifying, both in dry conditions in both Sao Paulo and here at Donington, had a clear 2 seconds really of advantage over Senna's McLaren, and it's not going to rain at every Grand Prix this year. And right now Senna will be looking to McLaren to improve their car, looking to Ford to give them their best of their Cosworth engines instead of the one without the air valves, which they currently are confined to, in order to try and improve his challenge for the World Championship, because Imola is next. That is a power circuit. Williams have a huge power advantage, and if it's dry, I think McLaren will be struggling to stay on the same lap as Williams on their present form. So Senna leads the championship, and mightily pleased he is. That's Joe Ramirez, senior member of the McLaren team and an old faithful who loves his motor racing. And Ayrton Senna mounting the steps to the rostrum.
And you can see what the adrenaline of success does. Ayrton Senna fairly bounds up the steps, his face in a terrific grin, to win 2 Grand Prix in succession in such dreadful conditions. First of all in Brazil, and now here is testimony to his genius. Quick word from Bob Constanduros there. So we look ahead to the next Grand Prix now. As James has just said, it's in 2 weeks' time. It's at Imola, the San Marino Grand Prix. It's Tom Wheatcroft, the circuit owner, who distinguished himself this morning by putting the W154 1938 Mercedes-Benz into the gravel trap, out of which it had to be dragged. But this has made 72-year-old Tom Wheatcroft's day. He's lived for the time there would be a Grand Prix at Donington. He has fought tremendously hard for it, and there he is to share in the happiness with Ayrton Senna, the winner. Damon Hill, second place. Alain Prost, third.
And now for the winning
national anthem of Brazil for Ayrton Senna, who has, as ever, finds himself a Brazilian flag. The Constructors' Championship, the national anthem, and the Constructors' Championship now jointly led by Williams and McLaren, as it was when this race began. They were on 16 points then, and they've now increased their points to 26 each of them. Tom Wheatcroft congratulates Ayrton Senna, and I don't know quite what the it's the sponsors trophy, and funnily enough it's the sponsor of the Williams team who also sponsored the Grand Prix itself, as Ayrton Senna holds up the symbol. And now the trophy, and you can see the rain absolutely belting down now, as it did in Brazil, and it has been tyres, weather and tactics that dominated and made the European Grand Prix what it has been. And it was the superior tactics in the end of Senna and McLaren that won it. From Damon Hill, second Alain Prost, a very happy Ron Dennis, the boss of McLaren, with the Constructors' Trophy. Damon Hill, the trophy for second position, to add to those that he has at home. And remembering that his father, Graham, had an absolutely enormous collection of trophies as a result of his success.
And now, gentlemen, the champagne.
Oh, well, this is it. You can never get away from it. The champagne spraying, and everybody gets soaked. The overalls go to the laundry. So often the drivers end up with the bubbly in their eyes, as Ayrton Senna did then. But who would worry if you've just got it in the eyes as a result of having won the European Grand Prix? And Damon Hill gets his comeuppance now. Well, Donington has established itself on the Grand Prix map. Let us hope that the powers that be decide that everything that has happened here today, yesterday in practice, Friday and Thursday, has justified Donington earning its position on the Grand Prix calendar permanently and being here next year for us to return to. There's been a lot of criticism from some people about holding a Grand Prix at this time of the year in Britain when conditions can be so cold, demanding and miserable. And this is a replay of Ayrton Senna on his final victory lap, and you can see his elation as he sits in the cockpit there. Well, and let us not forget either that this has been a wonderful race, not just for Senna and McLaren, but also for Ford, because Ford-engined cars have now won in Brazil and at the European Grand Prix at Donington. They share the lead with the Renault-powered Williams, and there is no secret about the fact that the Williams engine has got far more horsepower than the Ford. And it's going to heighten Ayrton Senna's political pressure on Ford and the McLaren political pressure on Ford, for the McLaren team to be given the engine with the specification that matches that of the more powerful Benetton Ford version. Well, did they think it was worth it with the umbrellas? They must have thought it was worth it. Just one place better would have satisfied them according to the banner, but Damon Hill in second place must have given a lot of joy to so many spectators here who have braved the elements to come to Donington to see the first Grand Prix here for so very long. And just to recap, Ayrton Senna, the winner, with only Damon Hill completing the race distance. Alain Prost third, ahead of Herbert, Patrese and Babazza. And waiting to talk to the top three men, Jonathan Palmer.
Ayrton, congratulations first of all on a brilliant victory. Conditions were certainly extremely difficult, but you seem to make the best of them.
Of course, conditions were difficult. I don't know how many times we stopped for tires. I think it's surely the record in any race of pit stops. Driving with slicks in damp and really slippery conditions was tremendous effort, because you just don't get the feeling from the car, and you have to commit yourself to certain corners, and you just can be off. So I had to gamble on this in some occasions, because on wet tires my car was a bit funny with low water in the circuit. When there was a lot of water it was okay, but with just light water or damp on wet tires my car was not working well. So I had to gamble on the slicks, even on damp conditions, and it paid off. And of course, I'm over the moon with the result, and don't know what to say. I'd like to thank you all the marshals and the people who helped organize this Grand Prix. Donington is a place where I first drove my Formula One car, my whole career, back in '83. Was a Williams then. And now I won with the McLaren, so I'm over the moon. Thank you to everyone, and thank you.
Clearly it was a race in which decisions for tyre changes were absolutely vital. Who made those decisions? Was it you or the team or a combination?
Sometimes the team pushed me hard to change tires, and I insist on my own mind, and eventually I came in. And sometimes I think they told me to come and I didn't come, and then I told them I was coming and they weren't ready, so I had to go through. And conditions like this is gambling, and it's taking chances that pays off. And I think we gambled good and we got the result, and the mechanics did superb work for us. They changed our alternator this morning to the afternoon. They made the improvisation because wasn't enough time to change it. So they had to make a new wire going outside the car to connect the new alternators. You know, creativity in those moments. It wins a race like this, and it was not only mine but the team too.
Had you got the best car in the conditions, do you think, today?
Well, you know what driving is like. You've been there. I think I had a good car. I don't know whether it was the best, but I had a good car.
Damon, moving on to you. You must be absolutely delighted. Another marvellous second place in very challenging conditions too. How was the race for you?
It was a nightmare. I mean, I have to say it was the worst race you'd ever want to be in, because you just didn't know what was going to happen. I mean, you could see the clouds in one part of the circuit, you see umbrellas up in one part of the circuit, another part it was dry. I mean, I mean, obviously, it just never made his mind up. And I want to thank, I think a special thanks to the Williams pit crew, because I came into the pit lane, locked up a few times, and they just stayed in their places like good soldiers. They were brilliant. And, I mean, it was such a difficult race. A lot of conversation on the radio, and it's very difficult to break your concentration to talk on the radio. But I'm very, very pleased. I mean, I don't know how I came second, because I didn't know where I was for a lot of the race.
Again, on that question of tyre change decisions, Alain and Ayrton have got vast amount more experience than you have and a better place to make those decisions themselves. Were you relying more on the team to give you direction? Yeah, I have to say I've still got a lot to learn about Grand Prix racing. I mean, the races are so long, that's the difference, and you know, every decision is very, very crucial. But it was impossible really to make the right decision today. I mean, if you'd stayed on slicks, you could probably have gone through the whole race on slicks. Well, really? apart from the first 20 laps or so. But you'd have been really touch and go for some of the periods when it was spitting. But then it only was like that for like 10 laps, you know, and then you could have gone back to slicks again. So difficult. It seemed that in those first 15 laps you were pushing Alain very hard. Could you have got by him? Well, it was in the early part. It was obviously difficult to push that hard. I mean, we're still feeling the conditions, and very difficult on a circuit like this to get close. And Alan was pushing quite hard as well. So I think it would have been difficult and risky, which wasn't really the right time to make risky decisions like that. Alain, moving on to you, third place. Conditions that you don't particularly enjoy, we know this, but you were very much in the hunt for the lead until you had a particularly long pit stop, I think.
Yes, I mean, it would be very long to tell everything that happened for me in the race, but mainly I've done some good decision to stop for the tires, especially at the beginning. Car was handling not bad at all in wet tires, but I've stolen the engine. My clutch was coming to be, difficult, and I've stolen the engine one stage, and I lost maybe, I don't know, 30, 40 seconds, even more than that. But from the beginning, I had a big gearbox problem. I think it's our big concern at the moment, and it was very difficult to drive. And then when I was on slicks, I think the front pressure was much too low, and the car was absolutely undrivable. So even if I had not stolen the engine, it would be very difficult for me to win the race in dry condition. I mean, second part of the race. But I'm a bit disappointed because it's not the the way I wanted the race going, but I get 4 points, and you know, championship is still very long, and wait and see.
Okay, Ayrton, if we can just come back to you finally now, with 12 points in the World Championship lead from a season in which has been started very late for you in terms of decisions. Does this now mean that your continuation with McLaren is assured?
I'll make no comment about that. We talk so much about this thing, and I don't feel particularly good. I don't see any good things coming out of those discussions to talk in public. All I can tell you is that I don't regret at all what we have done so far under the circumstance. Not the results, but the terms that we have come through. And if I don't race in the future, I will not regret. I feel really light and happy that we made the right things. It was fantastic to all of us. I think it was fantastic for Formula 1 too. And that's all I want to know. I want to enjoy this race just as I did in Brazil after the victory, and I'll think about later on.
Well done to you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Wonderful performance by Ayrton Senna. You can see that drive again. Grand Prix highlights tonight, 5-7 on BBC 2. Now, the Grand Prix taking longer than it was intended. We obviously have a little delay in our timings from now on. We hope to have more motor racing for you this afternoon in Grandstand, the second round of the British Formula 3 Championship. Just before we have some gymnastics, let me give you...
Gavin has got Warren Hughes right behind him.
In South Africa, and he had a jolly good second place in Brazil, but this second place today was absolutely magnificent. To keep on having to come in and keep your cool and still finish second was marvellous.
How difficult was it at those speeds in the wet and rain, Damon?
But it wasn't so difficult actually driving in those conditions. It never actually rained very heavily. That's always when it's most difficult. The most difficult thing was that very soon after it had rained and stopped, there was a dry line developing, and that was destroying the wet tyres, or at least it felt that's what was happening. And you were much quicker on slicks, so the best thing to do is come in. It's a quick pit stop here, get onto slicks and start making up some time. And then, of course, you'd be on the slicks, and no sooner than that happened, it would rain, and then they're very, very treacherous on slicks in the wet, and you had to go back to wets again.
I heard you say in the interview immediately after the race, it's the duration of these races that get to you as well.
Yeah, I mean, that was a lifetime, that race. I mean, really, it's going to take me a week to remember everything about that race. It just seems to go on and on and on. You just, so many, the driving is difficult enough, but then you have to think tactically as well, and that's something I've got to learn.
Developing into an interesting championship there, Murray.
Well, much more interesting than we had any right to expect at the beginning of the year, because everybody thought that it was going to be a Williams walkover, and that the new McLaren with the new engine, and we didn't know whether Senna was going to drive, wouldn't mean that they would not be in the hunt. But now they've won 2 out of the last 3 races. They were first in the second one. They're equal with Williams in the championship. Senna is leading the championship. But we know that Williams will have a power advantage from now on. It's going to be the best World Championship year we've had for a very long time.
A word about Donington, the way they put this race on.
Well, my heart goes out to Donington. Tom Wheatcroft, who owns the place, has spent an enormous amount of money and tremendous amount of effort. They've put on a superb show. A lot of the drivers came here thinking they weren't going to like the track and said subsequently that they did. And their reward was one of the worst days of weather I can remember for a very long time. I just hope they'll get the credit they deserve from the powers that be. Conditions apart, would you go along with that, Damon?
Yeah, it's a fantastic event, and very pleased that it went well for Tom. And Sega European Grand Prix, I think, was a success.
Imola? 2 weeks' time?
Looking forward to Imola now. Every race we go into, you know, I'm getting more at home with things, and I think we'll have a bigger advantage at Imola.
Do you feel under pressure? I mean, you bear the great name. It's been put to you so many times. Do you feel under pressure still?
The pressure is worse when I haven't had any results to really present to people as as proof of my ability. I mean, I feel strongly I can do what it takes, but I have to get results, and as yet I haven't got them, but I'm getting them.
Yes.
You've done too badly, 2 seconds.
You're a great admirer, Murray.
Very much so, yes. I admired his dad, and I admired Damon, because he's had to fight up through a lot of adversity in his life to get the drive that he's got, and it would have been so easy to crack under it, but he's kept his cool and soldiered on, and look at the reward.
Damon, thanks very well. Congratulations. Thanks, Murray, as well. Tonight, 5-7, BBC 2 Grand Prix highlights and bank.